Hello, so today we're going to be talking about various forms of knee rehab, okay? And particularly about how we progress through exercises in knee rehab and what potentially causes your issues. So first of all, I'm going to do this on a box, not because you need to, but simply I'm going to be using the box a bit later on. So first of all, if you get certain types of knee pain, so let's say you've got knee pain, you've been checked out by a professional and they say it's not a major structural thing, it's not necessarily a cartilage thing, but it's basically caused by a biomechanical thing. What I'm about to talk as well can also be true when you're rehabbing possibly from after knee surgery. So often the cause of knee pain is a biomechanical thing where when you walk, run, jump or whatever it is, the kneecap does not move smoothly in the correct direction and we get lateral movements in our movement patterns. So for example, when you squat, what we want to see is we want to see the apex of kneecap go over your joint between your second and third knee. Okay, so we want to see it nice and smooth. What we don't want to see is a knee moving down and inside or rolling in. And we refer to this posture as a bit like a capital A posture. What we want to see is imagine it like a drain pipe straight the way down. Okay, so we want to go straight down, okay? Now, when people do squats, you normally don't see that too much. You might see the ankle rolling in or the foot rolling in or some distortion. But then what we want to do is we want to test it and do it on a single leg. And again, the principle is that you want this knee to go straight down. But with people who've got knee problems, you often see it go down and inside on one leg. And if it does that in standing or a very slow static movement, like a single leg squat like we've just done, when they run, it will be emphasized a lot more and you can end up with all sorts of problems like patellofemoral pain syndrome or IT band pain, so on and so forth. So when we exercise, we want to train ourselves to strengthen the right areas. Now, when this internal rolling of the knee happens, it can be caused by the foot, but we're not going to talk about that today. But it's often caused by a weak VMO, but then more importantly, a weak glute medius and minimus. Tight adductors can also cause it to roll in as well. So here's the basics of what we're going to do. We're going to start off with our feet, our big toes perfectly parallel and our feet underneath our hips. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our hands on our hips and we're simply going to keep our arches of our feet up and we're going to push our knees forward. Okay, so should be able to see my big toes inside my knees on both legs. So that's where we start, and we might do 2 sets of 20, 3 sets of 20 reps there. And you should feel the restriction in this part of your ankle, in your talocural joint, but the more you do, the better it gets. You've got to keep your heels down. The next progression from there, of course, is to work onto a single leg. So you can toe tap behind, in my case on the box here, but we want to do effectively the same thing. Pushing that kneecap forward, not letting the internal rotation. Now, there's a caveat here, okay? So sometimes you'll see that, but then sometimes you'll see the contralateral hip drop, okay? And that's for all sorts of reasons potentially, but it's mainly because this glute medius and minimus is not firing properly. So the idea is when we walk, when you heel strike and you come over one leg, this glute area and this lower back should fire to cock the opposite hip so that you don't scuff your feet. So when you're weak in the glutes and possibly the lower back and you've had knee pain, what we see is this drop, okay, and then we're getting a lot of strain down the outside of the leg, around the hips, and then it's going to pull on your kneecap, and you can also get pain on the inside of your kneecap. So when we do the single leg stuff, we have to go tighten my glutes, tighten my core, keep this side high, keep space between your knees, okay? And that's where we work. Now from there, we can progress this, okay? So we can progress this to toe taps. So what we can do is put 15 degrees or 10 degrees of bend in our knee, keep it static, and we go tap in front, tap behind, tap in front, tap behind. Keeping space between my knees, keeping this level. So front, back, front, back, front, back. That's really good. We can take it a step further before we even think about adding bands. On a low box, now this box might be too high for some people, you could just lower it. What we're going to do is keeping the weight on this front leg, keeping that drain pipe idea of this kneecap over second to third toe and square across the hips. We're going to almost put hands down like so and actually tap my toe on the ground below. But the idea is all the weight is still on my front foot, okay? But notice I'm not doing that. Now you can be doing that because you're searching for the ground, but more often weak glutes. And let's be honest, if you've got knee pain, your knee doesn't necessarily want to do it. But either way, by working on these exercises, you can get stronger, you can reduce your knee pain, you can rehab after surgery. You need to take your time, but your function of your knee will get better.